What would you do if you walked into an interrogation room as a United States Navy sailor thinking that you're going to help the police catch the suspect of your unalived neighbor, but the next thing you know, you're doing 11 years in prison for a crime that you never committed? That's what happened to Dan Williams and 3 other soldiers in the Norfolk Force. So let's talk about it, you guys, because this case is a crazy one. These are the faces of 4 totally innocent men who did a combined 42 years in prison for a crime that they never even committed or had anything to do with. On July 8th, 1997, Michelle Bosco was sexually assaulted and unalived while her husband was away. Within 2 hours, they had a suspect, even though they hadn't even finished looking over the crime scene at that point. First suspect was Daniel Williams. Within 2 hours of Michelle Bosco losing her life, Dan Williams was brought in initially to be interrogated, but in a turn of events, he was brutally interrogated for 11 hours until he was so sleep deprived that he confessed to the crime that he didn't even commit. He gave details of the crime that didn't match the actual crime and eventually just regurgitated whatever the police had told him to say during the interrogation, which led to him being in prison for 11 years. But here's the kicker. About a month later, 2 months later, the DNA comes back and they confirmed that the DNA was 20 million more times to be the DNA of a black man than a white man, and they still wouldn't stop. Dan Williams was still continuously locked up, and at that point, they started looking for more suspects. This is when it gets crazy. So since the first DNA didn't match Dan Williams, investigators continued looking for more people to bring into this, okay? The only reason Dan Williams was ever pulled in was because a woman had told the police that Dan was obsessed with Michelle, although his cancer-ridden wife confirmed in her alibi that she was with him all night. He was in bed with her, asleep. Police used aggressive interrogation tactics, including threats of the death penalty, causing the sailor to confess even though DNA matched none of the 4 men. And because of these interrogation tactics, all 4 of these men eventually confessed to the crime that they were never there for. So they did a combined 42 years for the unaliving of Michelle Bosco, even though they were never even there. One of the men they went and got from an entire different state and brought him in. And eventually they decided when the DNA didn't match that they were going to keep looking for suspects. It was up to 10 different people that were arrested for this crime, even though the DNA matched none of the 10 men. And the DNA also did not match that of a Caucasian man. If you want an even bigger plot twist though, here it comes. In 2010, the interrogation detective Ford was arrested for extortion of $88,000 and for lying to the FBI, taking essentially payoffs and bribes from criminal suspects in exchange for fixing cases. He was paying off jailhouse snitches to say, oh, Joe Dick and all these people were involved, and they really weren't. He was giving them time off to lie for him. See it, my friends, Detective Ford faces extortion charges. The true unaliver was an African-American man named Omar Ballard, who actually confessed to the crimes, confessed that he had no accomplices, and stated that the only thing that the 4 sailors were guilty of was being stupid and confessing to a crime that they never committed. They still wouldn't take it for an answer. They eventually said that Omar was the ringleader of the other 4 to 8 men, even though they had never met, and I don't see anyone going to just meet up with strangers to commit things like they did to Michelle Bosco. I'm just saying that. 3 did receive conditional pardons, freeing the 3 men, but it left them with the labels of full pardons. Later came in 2017 after recognizing the 4 men were completely innocent the entire time. The city of Norfolk was ordered to pay $4.9 million in a settlement to the men. Dan Williams' wife passed away of cancer while he was incarcerated, and he wasn't allowed to go to her funeral, and he got out and never remarried ever again. If the Norfolk 4 teaches us anything, it is that not all investigators are there to be your friends. Just as there are corrupt people in this world, there are corrupt people who get into law enforcement as well. The more I read the Framed book by John Grisham, the more I can see how easy it would have been for them to hem up Bryan Kohberger. I mean, they're telling you confess or we're giving you the, what are you going to do? They did the same thing. They pled guilty to a crime they never committed in hopes that they wouldn't die for a crime they were never even there for. So you guys let me know what you think about this in the comments. This was from chapter 1 of the Framed book by John Grisham and Jim McCloskey. I highly recommend it. I cannot recommend it enough. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments though, because I have not seen many videos on TikTok about the Norfolk 4. So let's spread this far and wide and just pray that all of the people that were wrongfully convicted under Detective Ford are freed, because in 2017 2023, the city actually started working with a college to go back and look at all of the historical arrests Detective Ford had made to ensure that nobody else was falsely imprisoned. I love you guys. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk today, and I'll see you guys in the comments. Have a good day. Oh yeah, one more thing before I end this. If you're ever in a situation where you're going to be interrogated, please ask for a lawyer. Do not waive your Miranda rights. It said that 80% of Americans waive their rights trying to help, and they end up being the ones that are incarcerated. So